The date is Tuesday, November 12. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Jamaica's standby arrangement with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, came to an end on Sunday, November 10. And former mission chief for Jamaica, Dr. Uma Ramakrishna, has credited stakeholder ownership and stewardship of the economic reform program for the success of the standby program. Dr. Ramakrishnan was addressing journalists during a teleconference at the IMF's local office at the Bank of Jamaica building in downtown Kingston on Monday.
What are the lessons from Jamaica's reform effort and what has been done so far in the last 6.5 years? I think the story is one of ownership and commitment to see things turn around, and that is one of the biggest takeaways. The ownership that we have seen across administrations through an election cycle where things went so smoothly, like as if nothing changed, and where the commitment to retain the policy discipline, especially on the fiscal side.
The ERP is the government's strategic plan of action to generate sustained economic growth and long-term development of Jamaica. Dr. Ramakrishnan said the outcomes of the IMF-endorsed program have provided lessons for stakeholders at all levels of the society and foundations on which the country can be built. She hailed the rallying and building of a social consensus and the support of the reforms, particularly evident through the Economic Program Oversight Committee, EPOC.
From a social consensus building standpoint and just bringing the entire country behind these reforms in a way that we have not seen elsewhere is also a huge takeaway. And right from 2013, when the partnership was established with various stakeholders, where it was established with the private sector, with the unions, with civil society, with the media, that partnership has resulted in this ownership structure, which has contributed to the social consensus behind these reforms. As difficult as they may have been, the society as a whole has embraced it. And again, that is a huge mark of success for Jamaica's reforms that have been undertaken. And that is, I would say, a second big takeaway.
Jamaica's 6.5 years IMF program engagement ended on Sunday with the conclusion of the U.S. $1.7 billion precautionary standby arrangement, for which the sixth and final review was conducted by the fund's executive board 6 days earlier. The engagement also included the precautionary U.S. $932 million extended fund facility. The region's economic outlook is stunted by uncertainty. That's literally the title and theme throughout the recently released Regional Economic Outlook by the International Monetary Fund. Our news team was at the launch in Barbados and filed this report. Despite the general feeling of uncertainty in policies in some Latin American and Caribbean countries, like the projected slowdown in exports, the humanitarian and financial crisis in Venezuela, the regional financial outlook remains optimistic, with Jamaica leading the pack. That's the general idea portrayed within the latest Regional Economic Outlook for the Western Hemisphere. Deputy Director in the IMF's Western Hemisphere Department, Asim Hussein, says the economic projection for the region is weak because productivity is lagging and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Given the challenging external environment, the pickup in 2020 is expected to be driven by private consumption and investment, which in turn will be anchored, we expect, by a rebound in business and consumer confidence. Other factors such as job creation, wage growth, and domestic financial conditions are not expected to significantly boost private consumption and investment. So it's actually more a confidence-driven pickup that we're projecting at this stage.
IMF's Deputy Division Chief for the Caribbean, Bert Van Zelm, lauded Jamaica for its accelerated progress towards fiscal growth. the country has ended its standby arrangement with the IMF following a passing grade in the quarterly review.
As you may know, in Jamaica, when it started its 2013 fund program, debt to GDP was close to 150. And as of today, in 2019, they have been able to reduce that debt to GDP ratio by 50 percentage points, now below 100. So this is a very important example in the region that we think others can learn from. So how was this achieved? By a combination of fiscal consolidation, very prudent fiscal policy, measures to stimulate growth, in particular doing business environment, where Jamaica has made major progress over the last 5-6 years, and also debt restructuring that Jamaica implemented twice actually in 2013 and also in 2010, which also helped to put debt on a clear downward trajectory. And what we see now in Jamaica is that it's also leading to higher economic growth, because this impediment to economic development is being taken away. That's for others in the region. Barbados is now on a similar track. In other countries, we still see public debt increasing or not on a clear downward trajectory, so there further steps will be necessary, either in terms of fiscal consolidation or in terms of improving the business climate to move in that direction.
The IMF's support and presence at the 2019 Caribbean Forum, held last week, speaks to its commitment to regional support. Its prescription for adjustments to fiscal and social policies, exchange rate, flexibility, and sustained fiscal responsibility, along with regional inclusivity, should ensure growth. On Monday, the country witnessed the 10th sitting of the National Youth Parliament as part of activities to observe Youth Month, with more than 100 youngsters participating in the exercise. Young people from Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey vigorously debated issues of national concern, including abortion reform, climate change, and youth violence prevention, among others. PBCJ had live coverage. Here are some highlights.
Madam Speaker, the central message of this is simply enough. Jamaica needs to complete the shift from an approach to security that is centrally concerned with regime protection to the full adoption of a citizen security approach that is consistently pursued in the context of human development. Social entrepreneurship has proven itself in this regard.
The National Youth Parliament puts forward the creation of the Jamaica Climate Smart Endowment Fund. This National Climate Fund will enable Jamaica to mobilize, pool, and utilize domestic sources of finance to ensure national ownership of climate financing.
Abortion, youth participation in political process, climate change, and violence prevention. We must never forget the efforts and energy put in to consider these submissions, and we must always strive to actually push forward. Even though we may not be doing these things past our tenure, we must also push. Even if they don't get considered by going right now, we must always push for these topics.
Mr. Speaker, in closing, as the opposition, we join hands with the government, with Prime Minister and his team, as we move forward together like Honda in one accord.
If you missed it, you can just head over to PBCJ's Facebook page to see the recorded session. The Jamaica Environment Trust has added its voice to calls for Cabinet to dismiss appeals for the delay of the January 1, 2020 ban on Styrofoam. A group of local distributors and manufacturers have reportedly written to government seeking the delay. The ban blocks the importation of Styrofoam food and beverage containers. JET says that the scheduled implementation of the ban is a progressive move by the government towards improved solid waste management policy and regulation, which should be adhered to and strongly enforced. JET says it has already observed several restaurant operators in the corporate area take a proactive approach to the impending ban by replacing Styrofoam takeout lunchboxes with the alternative biodegradable options. The Environment Lobby Group is also calling for government to move swiftly in ramping up its public education on the ban to ensure that Jamaicans are prepared for the impending changes. Entertainer Orville Shaggy says he remains committed to raising funds for the Bustamante Hospital for Children. Speaking at a press conference Monday, Shaggy said funds raised by Shaggy and Friends Foundation was initially geared towards the expansion of the intensive care unit and has been in the foundation's Scotiabank account. However, given the pressing need for more beds at the facility, as was highlighted by the hospital's chairman, Dr. Kenneth Benjamin, the foundation will be partnering with others to build a 3-story structure to treat more patients. The Sunday Gleaner had recently highlighted the fact that the hospital was yet to benefit from the proceeds of the charity concert nearly 2 years later. The first ever Parent Partners Forum will be held on November 19 by the Early Childhood Commission, the ECC. The event is being held in collaboration with the Education Sector Transformation Plan for Learning and Teaching, a Japan grant-funded, Inter-American Development Bank implemented technical cooperation initiative. This was disclosed by Program Manager for the Education System Transformation Program, Danae Facey. She said the forum will bring together all parent partners to help in better streamlining and coordinating their resources. The US dollar is being traded today at $141.96, up by 34 cents. According to the Bank of Jamaica's daily foreign exchange trading summary, the Canadian dollar ended trading at a Jamaican $106.46, down from $108.10, while the British pound sterling ended trading at $182.35, up from $181.65. In regional news, election campaigns have kicked into higher gear in Dominica. With elections slated for December 6th, the country's 2 major political parties kicked off their campaigns last weekend. The incumbent Dominica Labour Party, the DLP, is hoping to stave off a challenge from the United Workers' Party. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit addressed a rally on Sunday, urging supporters to stick with the ruling party.
I have developed programs that are geared to addressing the concerns of people. Whether it's the Yes We Care program, whether it's school transfer grant, whether it's transportation for students, whether it's housing. And this is why you have seen over the years, since Roosevelt Skerrit became the Prime Minister of Dominica, you have programs and projects that have been implemented for the first time in our history. And these programs are not motivated by an election winning or vote catching. It is motivated by a genuine concern and care and love for the people of this country. And this is why I have said to you in Dominica that this is the most important election in the history of our country. And this election is about Roosevelt Skerrit. It is not about the Labour Party. It is about you, the people of Dominica, and the future of this country.
Speaking at a rally Sunday night, UWD leader Lennox Linton told supporters that after 20 years of Labour Party rule, change is a must for Dominica.
An election has been called. An election has been called. What is the Kalinago territory looking for? What is Dominica looking for? The election has been called by a man who has made himself the chief enemy of free and fair elections in Dominica. It has been called by a man who has deprived the people of Dominica and the people of the Kalinago territory of living in an equal opportunity society and having available to them an economy that works for all the people of Dominica. Look.
Still on the election front, Trinidad and Tobago's 2 main political parties, the People's National Movement and the United National Congress, have kicked off campaigns for the December 2 local government elections. Both parties have expressed confidence ahead of the polls, as the ruling PNM unveiled its roster of candidates over the weekend. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says the PNM has brought stability and progress.
PNM, for 3 generations, has been the most progressive force in the improvement in the lives of every citizen. The PNM is great because our love for country is great. The PNM is great because that love makes us strong. The PNM is great because in your defense, we are fearless and strong. When we say great is the PNM, it's about the power and strength of loving our country.
Opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar, speaking at the launch of the UNC campaign, said her party is prepared to get the country working again.
We have a vision, we have a plan, and we have shared it and will share it again with you. We have a master plan to transform the economy of TNT. So we have the vision, we have the plan, and you know what? We have a strong team to get ready to work for you again. Look behind me and you will see 139 of the brightest, hard-working persons ready to represent you after December 2nd.
Staying in Trinidad and Tobago, Attorney General Faris Al-Rawari says a bill for the decriminalization of marijuana is set to go before Cabinet this week. The details in this TV News report.
Attorney General Faris Al-Rawari used the opportunity at the PNM's annual convention and launch of its local government campaign to give an update on a controversial piece of legislation which is now on the front burner and engaging the attention of the national community. The convention saw the Agricultural Minister in a new role as broadcast host for a paid political broadcast.
What can you say to the population in relation to cannabis is something that people are interested in?
I spent much of this morning finalizing the final positions on that law. That law will be taken to Cabinet hopefully during the course of this week, where we can treat with how we manage the offense of dangerous drugs, marijuana itself, its importation, its management, expunging records, because there are people that have offenses for very small quantities. They need to be out of the system.
The AG said this would benefit the justice system overall.
A simple thing like decriminalizing marijuana results in a 76% drop in the forensics workload, and that is to give space and time for the more serious matters. So it's very good, very progressive law. I ask you to stay tuned and pay attention to the process as we move ahead in the next week or so in center staging that particular reform.
During his address, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, the political leader of the PNM, spoke of other legislation meant to tackle the illicit proceeds of crime and also better regulate certain sectors.
We also in the next few months expect to table in the Parliament and complete the gambling, gaming and betting control bill to better regulate the gambling industry. Many entities are currently operating without even being registered.
In Guyana, health officials have launched the HPV vaccine. We get more in this report from HGP Nightly News.
According to PAHO WHO Guyana representative Dr. William Adekro, almost every sexually active person who's not been vaccinated against HPV could be living with the virus. In Guyana, efforts to combat the virus has begun. The process of immunizing girls and boys between the ages of 9 to 16 years with the HPV vaccine has intensified. Dr. Adekro stated that HPV can be eliminated in Guyana. In his address, he made mention of the elimination of polio and measles, which were last recorded in 1962 and 1991, respectively.
HPV is now the most common sexually transmitted infection. Because almost everyone has it. And you may transmit it without knowing. And what you may transmit may be harmless. Most of them are harmless, but you will never know. Almost everybody has it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to impress upon the populace. We need to impress upon persons that come into contact with us.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Shamdeo Prasad revealed that during a recent health training seminar with several morticians who are at high risk of contracting this disease, they were doubtful about the impacts of vaccinations. He called for the immunization of the high-risk persons.
I would really like for us to ensure that persons at high risk are immunized and adequately immunized. The mortuary attendants, like other categories of health workers, it's critical for them to obtain these vaccines. We've added to that group for persons who may have missed doses, a single dose of MMR, a yellow fever, a single dose of yellow fever, along with the hepatitis B and the tetanus toxoid.
Minister of Health Valda Lawrence urged the populace to take care of their vaccination documents as though it is their birth certificates. She stated that more education is needed to creatively engage the public.
In sports, West Indies beat Afghanistan by 5 wickets in the third one-day international in Lucknow to complete a 3-0 sweep on Monday. Hope made 109 and built crucial partnerships, including an unbeaten 71-run stand with Ruston Chase, 42 not out, to anchor West Indies' chase of 250 with 8 balls to spare. Paceman Kemo Paul returned figures of 3 for 44 in Afghanistan's 249 for 7 to play a key part in the win. The two teams will now play 3 2020 internationals starting November 14 in Lucknow. And that's the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. Pleasant viewing.